Your culture has been controlling your love life since before you could speak. And I really hope that you are aware that it's happening. And if not, this video is for you because the timeline that you think that you want, the commitment that you think that you need, the relationship that you think that is healthy or normal, none of this is yours. It is your culture programming your brain to consider it yours. Hi, I'm Justyna. I'm an occupational psychologist and I love optimization and fulfillment, but I'm also Polish, married to a Spanish guy. And I almost destroyed my relationship following the script that I thought is mine, but it was actually my culture programming me. So in this video, I want to make your relationship much easier for you, especially if it's a cross-cultural one. So let's jump into it. 2 years into our relationship, I was spiraling. We've been together 2 years and he hadn't proposed yet. And he wasn't even talking about our future together. He seemed perfectly fine with the things however they were, just existing in our relationship without a timeline or commitment. And I was wondering, is he even seeing a future with me? Am I wasting my time? Is he even serious? And on the other hand, he could understand, why am I so anxious? We were great together. We were happy. So where was I rushing? That's when I realized that we didn't have a relationship problem. We had a different culture programming and different perspective of how relationships timeline should look like. My Polish cultural script was that I would meet someone in my 20s, and in that case I met someone in my early 20s. So I would start investing and taking it seriously and start talking about future together without wasting my time and investing into a wrong person and wrong relation. And then we would get engaged and married by my mid-20s or later, whenever we would feel financially stable but also emotionally stable, that yes, we are sure we are going to be together. And from that we would start building our life, so buying a house, starting a family, and just growing and overcoming obstacles together. Any deviations, especially postponing for no reason, felt like something is wrong. Whereas from what I understood, his Spanish cultural script was all about discovering the world and meeting people in your 20s without the pressure. Relationships were more and are still about connection, not about the timeline. Rushing commitment is immature, not romantic, and perhaps the marriage would come more in mid-30s or 40s, and taking time would be considered as responsible, not uncommitted. And this is where we had this clash, that every time I felt like he's postponing that commitment, I felt like I am wasting my time and he's not serious about the future. Whereas he was thinking that I am being immature, that I want to rush through everything, putting more pressure on our relationship. So we were both right according to our cultures, but we were both wrong according to each other. And the problem was that whenever I was speaking with my friends and my family about this problem, they were telling me, well, of course I am right, because everyone else was from the same culture as me. And where my husband was talking to their friends and their family, then he heard the same thing, that he is right. Of course, why is she rushing? Is she crazy? And on the other side, I was hearing that he's not serious. If he didn't propose now, he's just wasting your time. He's just wasting your youth. Just dump his ass. Here's the truth that nobody tells you about culture. You don't see your culture until somebody from a different culture comes to you and show you that another rule exists and you're following the rule of your culture. You didn't even know that that rule existed because it was so normal. It was your standard. It was so taught to you that you're not thinking that this is a culture thing. You're thinking that this is your standard, this is a norm, but somebody else can have a different norm. And in this moment, something clicks and be like, all right, it doesn't mean that whatever they're doing is wrong. It means that they are different because they are from different culture, obviously. In Poland, there is this immense pressure to marry young, especially if you already have a partner. The question is then, what are you waiting for? You already have a partner, we were living together. Basically, not a lot of things would change after marriage. So the parents, the grandparents are putting a pressure onto you. In my family, they were even saving money for our wedding. So they were literally telling us, what are you waiting for? You know, we've got the money, we can organize it for you, and you just have to follow through and be married. They want you to settle down very young, especially if there is opportunity, if there is a right partnership or relationship that lasts, and they want you to settle down and create a family with kids and then build life together. And of course, I'm biased because I am from this culture, and I love the idea that you come together and then you build everything from scratch rather than waiting until each of those people will have their own houses, the financial stability, career figure it out, and then they will come together. If, of course, life happens this way, then there is nothing wrong with that. But if you are already in a relationship, I believe that this is the beauty of it, that you can come together and build everything from scratch together rather than going separate ways and then come together once you are ready, because you don't have that building experience. Later on, you still have to build life anyway with children and continuity of your life, so you might as well start earlier. But that also creates that urgency that puts a lot of pressure on everyone, and I definitely felt that pressure. And I thought that I wanted to get married young because this is what I wanted, but actually it was because my society around me and my culture made me feel like I am literally running out of time, so I better freaking rush. The Spanish perspective I couldn't see was totally different, especially that my husband is from Canary Islands, and I believe that islands have totally different vibe. It is tropical, it is sunny all year round, it's like a holiday vibe all the time, and they are especially slower and not caring about a lot of things, that not worrying about a lot of things that they don't need to, and bringing a lot of pleasure into their lives. Whereas in Polish culture, it's all about rushing, responsibility, being serious and complaining. So you can see how much of a contrast that is. In Spanish culture, getting married in your 20s could be considered as rushing, as being immature and really not enjoying the present moment. People are in relationships if they want to, but they usually marry later, especially that they move out even from their parents' houses very late, after university, in their late 20s or maybe even 30s. They don't feel like they need to be adults and suddenly have all those responsibilities and put all that pressure on themselves and suddenly create also the family and then have a responsibility of having children. They might get married later, once they build careers, once they discovered the world, once they enjoyed life a little bit. For them, waiting isn't a red flag. Taking time isn't a commitment issue. It's actually considered as thoughtful. So because of all of those different perspectives, we had a lot of recurring fights, because in my head I had one question: when we will start talking and doing some actions towards the future together. And his thinking was that we are our future. Why do you need to define it right now? It will be clarified sooner or later. But as me, I love planning. I need to have a plan for my life, at least a rough idea for the next 5, 10, 20 years to feel secure, somehow in control of my life. And I believe that if you don't have a roadmap or you don't have a map, you will not get where you want. So I am asking actively to just know where do we stand. And different cultural beliefs exist for a reason. Here's the conspiracy that will blow your mind. Cultures don't program relationship timelines randomly. They design them to produce exact types of citizens and workers they need. So why Polish culture demands early marriages? Because post-communist Poland needed a rapid population growth and economic stabilization. So the solution was to pressure young people into marriages. Early marriages creates economic units that consumes more. You need to suddenly buy a house, buy a car, buy a baby product. Also, it creates a population that takes less risks because the stable life. That also of course creates a population growth and people who are too busy with family formation to question the system. So Polish culture needs you to marry young because it creates economic and political stability. Why Spanish culture delays marriages? Because economic crisis destroyed job security for millennials. So marrying young just seems so irresponsible. In this case, later marriages creates extended periods of flexible, exploitable labor. Also, it creates people staying with their parents, living with them for longer periods so that they can keep on working, but also keep on consuming because consumption culture is targeting single young adults so they can keep on going for all those distractions and then still live at their parents' house, and they cannot really afford to suddenly either have children or have stable life. The culture doesn't want to allow that to happen. So when you think about it, we were both persuaded that we are doing the right thing, that it is all about morality, love, and maturity, but it's actually about economic control. I was rushing towards marriage to serve Polish capitalism. He was delaying the marriage to serve Spanish capitalism. So neither timeline was really about us, whether it was our readiness or relationship health or what we really need or what we really want. It was more about what the culture programmed us to do. The day everything changed was the day when we stopped arguing about the timeline and we started asking the questions, why are we this way? Why am I putting a pressure on myself to really get engaged by this age, to get married at this age, and where is this coming from? Is this more me or is this what more society wants me to do? And the answer was, of course, that I was taught this way. My family and my friends were telling me that that's the right thing to do, but I was still curious, where is this coming from? And then I also asked myself a question, that if I would be on a deserted island, would I rush? And the answer is I wouldn't. I wouldn't care about the marriage. I would just go with the flow and just do the things I wanted to do. But because we are living in a society, we feel some kind of a societal pressure here and there, and this is how we are existing everywhere. So I get it, but it is so easy to forget what we really want and what we would do when all we can hear is that noise from other people. Finally, whatever happened was that he proposed to me earlier than his Spanish culture would have advised him to, showing that he values my perspective, my culture, and my need for commitment visibility. And my part was working to accept the extension of waiting for a proposal more than typically in my Polish culture, showing him that I value his thoughtful thinking and timing and not putting a pressure or rushing good things. And finally, the result was that we got engaged after 4 years of being together, and we both disappointed our cultures. And we were actually a little bit disappointed also because we've been programmed that this is what we were supposed to follow through, and we had to meet in the middle, respecting each other's cultures and perspective. But the thing is that we felt like we're doing something against our nature. And the deeper truth is that this cultural programming can feel like intuition, like our standard, like the right thing to do. So when you're doing something against it, even though rationally you understand that, like, hey, this is a person I love and they have totally valid reasons to think in a different way, but yet because I need to do something against me, because the culture is a part of me, it feels like it isn't right. Like it feels like it is something wrong that we're doing, something counterintuitive and something against of what we believe. But then when you ask yourself, why do you need to get, for example, engaged at this specific age? And you cannot think about your personal reason, but every reason you think about is because my family says so, they are putting a pressure on me, because my friends are already married with kids, because I'll be behind, because in my culture they'll do that. Then you know that it is not because of you, because of what you need. It's because cultural programming around you. So if you're in a cross-cultural relationship or maybe friendship and you're struggling to navigate the differences, here is a 5-step simple framework that you can start with, and your life and relation is going to be immediately much easier. Step first is that you want to name your cultural script. You want to hear yourself saying things out loud. Like, in my culture, we are taught to get married early. In our culture, it is all about being serious, responsible, and having stable life. That will allow you to differentiate what is actually your value and what is something that has been taught to you by your culture. Step 2 is to understand, don't judge. Just because someone's perspective is different, their culture is different, and it might seem so wrong to you, so strange, so bizarre, and it's just like, no way it's freaking working, doesn't mean that it's wrong. They are right and you are right. That's why I want you to understand it rather than put a judgment, because they are judging yours and they are thinking that yours is wrong, and neither of you are wrong. You are right in your own way. Their perspective and their cultural difference is different, just different, and it shaped them as much as your culture shaped you. Step 3 is that you want to question everything. Is this something that you really want because you want it? Or is it because your culture taught you that you're supposed to want it? Like in my example, getting married early, that was definitely something that I felt like I want and I need, but at the end of the day, it was something that was all the time repeated to me, telling me that if I don't have it, then this relationship is not serious, I'm just wasting my time, when that wasn't necessarily truth. But because that was feeding my belief, I was believing in it. The moment you start questioning it, that's the moment when you can rewrite the story and start believing in something else, something more useful. And that takes me to step 4. Create your own culture. The moment your culture doesn't benefit you and it's not useful and it's actually destroying a relationship because you cannot make it work in your own culture way, create a third way. My culture is right, my husband's culture is right, but it wasn't right for us if we were planning to make it work. So we needed to create a third one, take the most out of both of them and create the one that works for us. And step 5 is to be prepared to unfortunately disappoint both of those cultures. The moment you create your own culture, it's somewhere in the middle, so you're not going to be fully satisfied and fully authentic towards that one culture because you're creating a hybrid, the best of both worlds, but not necessarily authentically, uniquely one or the other. And that's when you're building something relevant and beneficial for you. And the people from the cultures, from only one or the other cultures, might not understand it and might not accept it fully. And finally, here's the revelation that will change how you see and feel about relationships forever. And it's not me saying that relationships should be easy and they come naturally and, if you find the one, everything is going to be rainbows and fairy tales, because I will never tell you that. Every single person that you meet is running on the cultural software that they didn't consent to install. They've been raised this way. And most relationships fail because they are fighting over that different programming instead of recognizing that they've been programmed themselves. Instead of understanding that different cultures are different, otherwise they will be the same culture, they are focusing on proving whether they are right or wrong and proving another culture that they are wrong and they should adjust. And even if you're both from the same country, you can still be programmed totally different because you have a different family that raised you, a different school that you went to, a different people that you met along the way, different interests, different hobbies, different environment, different generation, different religion or no religion. All of that shapes us in unique ways. And recognizing all of that is truly transformational because instead of fighting over one culture or another, you start investing and putting that energy into creating your own culture that works for both of you, just like we did. And we are still working on it because it is a work in progress, never-ending story. We got married this year, not however Polish culture said we should, or not however Spanish culture told us that we should. We created our own rules and our own culture, and people around told us that we are completely wrong, but this is what it's working for us. We decided to do it when we were ready on our timeline, and both of our families, especially mine, were disappointed about that timeline. But this is actually the moment when we knew that we're doing something right by us, not right by everyone else. And now I want to hear from you. What's one relationship belief that held you back that might actually be cultural programming? Comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos like that. And I'll see you in the next video.